This is Sebastian, a banker, tired of his boring job. But there was one thing that brought him peace: legendary safes and the stories behind them, which he often explained on his YouTube channel. One night, he made a video about the 4 safes built by Hans Wagner. Hans Wagner, a crazy genius who didn't see safes as machines, but puzzles. His life revolved around 2 things: his family and his work. But when fate took his family away, he poured all that pain into one masterpiece: a series of 4 safes that felt more like myth than metal. The Rheingold, the Valkyrie, the Siegfried, and the Götterdämmerung. All names taken from Richard Wagner's Ring Cycle, and each safe was a mystery of its own. They said if someone tried to force them open, everything inside would burn to ash, and the safe would lock forever. But Hans didn't stop there. He built one final safe, his last creation. Carrying all his pain, loneliness, and loss, he locked himself inside that safe. The workers tried everything to open it, but failed. That safe became his tomb. Eventually, it was dropped into the depths of the ocean. The Rheingold, the Valkyrie, and the Siegfried are still out there somewhere in the world. Rumors fly around, but no one really knows where. As for the Götterdämmerung, no one knows what happened to it. In every video, Sebastian introduced himself as the super safe cracker, even showed off his finger magic on camera. After shooting and editing, he uploaded the video to his YouTube channel. But just like every time, not a single view. The next afternoon, when he got back to work after lunch, he got a notification. Turns out someone had watched the video and even left a comment. It said, "If you want to test your skills, be at the last house on Leipziger Street at 8 p.m. Use the back door. Password is Götterdämmerung." Sebastian was already fed up with his boring life, so he decided to take the risk. After saying the password, he was let into a basement where a safe-cracking tournament was going on. Turns out everyone was waiting for the final competitor, Sebastian. As soon as he walked in, the competition kicked off. But Sebastian had no clue what was happening. Once he figured it out, he got right to work, cracking safes like the others. Out of all the competitors, only 4 would make it to the next round. They quickly got the first finalist, then the second and third. The last spot saw a tough fight, but in the end, Sebastian made it. The next round brought even tougher safes. By then, gamblers had picked their players and started placing bets. That's when the next round began. The crowd was on edge, waiting to see the first finalist crack a double-lock safe. Out of the final 4, a guy named Neo was the first to crack it, and Sebastian became the second finalist. That same mystery girl who brought him there had her eyes on him the whole time. The final match was 3 minutes long, and if neither of them could open the safe in time, it'd be a draw. As soon as the bell rang, Neo got straight to work, but Sebastian wasted 2.5 minutes just trying to understand the safe and getting lost in random thoughts. The crowd started thinking maybe this was out of his league, but then Sebastian pulled off something no one saw coming. He cracked the safe in just 7 seconds. The whole building lit up with thunderous applause. Sebastian had never felt this happy in his life. The guy who never got even a single view on his videos was now getting showered with praise. He really was a genius safe cracker. That night he met Gwendolyn, and that's when he learned a lot about her, including the fact that she was the one who commented on his video and signed him up for the tournament. Gwendolyn had been into stealing stuff since she was a kid. That's basically how she grew up. And by the time she turned 17, cops from 17 countries were after her. Yeah, she pulled off some crazy stuff at a really young age, and now she was planning a heist that could change their lives forever. She then told Sebastian about the zombie outbreak and how Hans Wagner's safes were about to be moved to a vault in Geneva within the next 96 hours. Wagner had spent his entire life building those puzzles, and now this was their last shot at solving them. She was basically saying they'd crack open the Rheingold first, then the Valkyrie, and then the Siegfried. That meant 3 international heists in 4 days, and if all went according to plan, they'd be rolling in cash. Sebastian found the idea of solving those puzzles super exciting, but honestly, everything she said sounded insane. Still, before leaving, Gwendolyn handed him her card, just in case he changed his mind. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. After a long day of getting yelled at by customers at the bank, he finally agreed to join Gwendolyn's crew. But he was so scared of zombies that just seeing them on the news freaked him out. They even started haunting his dreams. Now imagine, a guy that's scared going on a heist. What's going to happen to the team? Just thinking about it makes me laugh. Anyway, including Sebastian, there were 5 people in the crew. Karina, the hacker and tech expert, Rolf, the driver, who could make a car fly like a rocket, Brad Cage, the most aggressive one, and a total weapons expert, and finally their team leader Gwendolyn, who planned every mission. Over the past 3 years, they had tracked down the locations of all 3 safes. The first one, Rheingold, was inside a small bank in Paris. Talking about its lock combo, it had around 4 billion possibilities. So yeah, out of the 3, that safe was considered the easiest. Not just to crack, but also because it was inside a kid's bank where security was pretty much zero. The second safe was Valkyrie, located in a high-security bank in Prague, Czech Republic. That one had about 2.4 trillion combo possibilities, and inside it was stashed a heavy sum of $40 million. That kind of money was more than enough for all of them, but it wasn't just about the cash. Gwen wanted to solve all 3 safe puzzles and rule the crime world. Now coming to Siegfried, it was inside a casino in St. Moritz, Switzerland. That safe had over 100 trillion combo possibilities. Word was it held around $100 million, and all 3 safes belonged to one guy, international crime boss Bly Tanaka, which meant if they got caught, even by mistake, no one could save them. Next scene, they'd already reached that kid's bank in Paris. Right outside the main gate stood an old security guard. For Brad, handling that guy wasn't a big deal. But the second he pulled out his revolver, Sebastian started freaking out. That's when Gwen explained it's not for hurting anyone, just to scare him a little. While all that was going on, Karina hacked into the bank's cameras and looped the footage from 30 minutes earlier. As planned, Sebastian was the first one to enter the bank. His job, head to the restroom and wait for further instructions. Locals often used the bank's restroom, so no one would really suspect anything. Then Gwen walked in and smoothly swiped the security guard's keys. A few months back, she'd opened a fake locker here, so using that excuse, she slipped into the locker room. Karina's job was to distract the bank teller and get her away from the corridor, which she pulled off perfectly. While the staff were busy trying to understand Karina's Chinese babbling, Gwen quietly led Sebastian to the safe. For a second, the whole room went silent. Sebastian took a deep breath, placed his fingers on the lock, and started turning the dial with full focus. The slow clicks of the metal parts inside were giving him clues, one by one. As soon as the first disc locked in place, a slight smile showed up on his face. By the time he reached the second, the pressure got heavier, but his fingers didn't stop. Getting to the third disc, his eyes locked in, like every sound around had just vanished. And then, click, he cracked the Rheingold like it was nothing. Gwen's eyes widened at the sight of all that cash stacked inside, while Sebastian jumped with joy. He couldn't stop himself from saying, "I did it!" After that, they stuffed their bags with stacks of big bills. Then Brad and Rolf jumped in. Brad kept the bankers distracted, and during that, Sebastian quietly slipped out through the restroom exit with the money bag. Just seconds later, Gwen followed him out. And the crazy part? The bank didn't even realize they'd been robbed until the crew was long gone. After that, Interpol put together a special task force to catch the thieves. The team was led by Delacroix, who had a personal grudge against Brad. Actually, Delacroix had been chasing Gwen's crew for the past 5 years. In that time, they pulled off 4 major heists, and during one of them, Brad straight up shot Delacroix in the damn ass. He never got over it. Now he figured out that even in the middle of this zombie apocalypse, Gwen's team was after Hans Wagner's Ring Cycle, the 4 legendary safes. After cracking Rheingold, their next obvious target had to be the Valkyrie. That meant Interpol still had 2 chances left to catch them. Meanwhile, Gwen and her team were partying all night with loud music and a full-on DJ scene. During that, Karina tried everything she could to flirt with Sebastian, but Sebastian was too lost in Gwen to notice. He didn't even know Gwen was already in a relationship with Brad. Anyway, the next morning, they pulled up outside the Prague bank that held Valkyrie. On the other side, Delacroix and his full team had eyes on the bank. This time, Sebastian had to go in as a junior branch coordinator, and Gwen as a secretary. Both had fake ID cards. They just had to pretend to scan them at the entry system. And right at that moment, Karina would remotely log in for 16 seconds without being detected. Then she'd log out and back in again, repeating the cycle until Gwen and Sebastian made it safely to the vault. Sebastian followed the plan exactly and messaged Karina before reaching the main gate. Within a second, Karina logged in and granted him access. The bank was huge and its security was top tier. Still, using this technique, Sebastian made it all the way to the main vault door. Then Karina said, "You just pretend to crack the lock. I'll handle it." Sebastian did just that. He pretended to unlock it with his finger, and right on cue, the door opened. Gwen was already inside waiting. They took the elevator down, and as soon as the doors opened, 2 guards were standing there, watching the vault. That's when Gwen charged at them and beat them down like they never saw it coming. I mean, who would have thought a 19-year-old girl, looking all sweet and normal, could be that lethal? The guards underestimated her, and they paid the price. After beating the hell out of both, she knocked them out completely with some kind of sleeping agent. Now it was time to crack the safe. Sebastian was just getting his fingers warmed up when suddenly Interpol stormed the bank. But then, surprise, the real truth came out, and it shocked everyone. Turns out the Valkyrie had been transferred days earlier to the bank's biggest branch because that safe was more secure. Meanwhile, the guards at the Czech Republic Bank were already suspicious of Sebastian. I mean, the guy opened the door with just a finger. Of course that looked sketchy. One of them hit the silent alarm. That meant the elevators would stay locked until the vault was fully checked. But Gwen had already prepped for this. Her plan B, Brad was supposed to stage a robbery inside the bank to draw all the security attention his way. Brad did exactly that. He knocked out a couple of guards right off the bat with a tranquilizer gun, and the rest got beat down with his punches and kicks. The very next second, Brad fired shots into the air. The sound of gunfire sent panic across the entire bank. All the customers hit the floor out of fear. Meanwhile, Sebastian completely messed up on his first try. All 3 dials of the safe instantly slipped back inside. The safe's locking algorithm had already figured out someone was trying to force it open. A few seconds later, just 1 dial popped back out. But this time, if he messed up, the safe would permanently lock. Sebastian took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and slowly started turning the first dial, carefully listening to each click. Just then, a security guard hit the emergency alarm, meaning cops would arrive in exactly 10 minutes. On the other side, Brad was tearing the place apart. The cashier was stuffing his bag full of cash on his command. Right then, Sebastian cracked the safe and came out with 2 bags full of big bills. Brad was also about to make his exit with a loaded bag when a guard suddenly blocked him, pointing a revolver. Brad tossed the bag at him and dove off the floor, but the guard didn't back down, and within seconds a fight broke out between them. Somehow Brad managed to shake him off, but he took a bullet while trying to escape. Still, he smashed through a window and jumped out of the bank, then turned back in rage and took out the security guard. He sprinted toward the getaway van and climbed in. Sebastian and Gwen were right behind him, also hopping into the van. But at the last second, Brad betrayed them. He shoved Sebastian out of the van mid-run and took off without him. The cops went after Sebastian right away. There was a long chase through the streets, but in the end, Sebastian gave them the slip and disappeared. Meanwhile, Gwen was furious. The plan was clear. Once the mission was done, Sebastian was supposed to be let go safely. And now cracking the Siegfried without him was impossible. But Brad didn't care. As far as he was concerned, the job was done. They had enough money to never pull off another heist again. That's when Gwen exploded. We were supposed to crack all 3 safes in sequence to claim our place at the top. That was the mission, Brad, and you blew it. Burning with anger, Gwen and Karina jumped out of the car. That was it. Their paths had officially split. Gwen had made up her mind. She'd pull off the next heist without Rolf or Brad. But first, she had to find Sebastian and convince him to come back. There was no mention of him in the news, which clearly meant he hadn't been caught, and his identity was still under wraps. Late at night, Gwen and Karina quietly broke into Sebastian's house. He was totally stunned when he heard their voices. They didn't just surprise him, they also apologized for Brad's actions. And they made it clear, Brad and Rolf were no longer part of their crew. But this time, Sebastian wasn't going to fall for it so easily. That's when Gwen said softly, "We're going to crack Siegfried, and then go hunt for Götterdämmerung. History's going to remember us, Sebastian. This isn't just a mission, it's a shot at becoming a legend." Sebastian didn't say anything at first, but eventually he agreed. Though now he was in serious danger, because Delacroix had figured out his identity by watching his YouTube videos. He now knew Gwen's safecracker was none other than Sebastian himself. This was Delacroix's last shot to catch them, so he rushed with his team straight to the St. Moritz Casino in Switzerland. He quietly had his men surround the place without tipping off the casino. Then he waited. But when hours passed and Gwen's crew still didn't show up, Delacroix got suspicious. He stormed into the casino and questioned the manager. That's when he found out the casino had already been tipped off about a possible break-in nearly 8 hours ago. Just a short while back, they had moved the safe to a more secure location. Hearing that, Delacroix freaked out and took off, chasing the truck that was carrying the safe. Rolf and Brad had also arrived by then, but they had no clue what was really going on. Brad only knew one thing. Gwen had betrayed him, and he was burning to get even. Now the story jumps back 8 hours. The one who tipped off the casino manager wasn't the cops. It was Karina. The truck that was scheduled to pick up Siegfried from the casino had Gwen already hiding inside it. When the time was right, she jumped the drivers, knocked them out, and wore their uniforms to show up and pick up Siegfried herself. Karina had already handled the rest. She smartly approached every sniper one by one, sweet-talked them, and then knocked them out cold. Every time Delacroix tried to contact the snipers over the radio, Karina played pre-recorded audio to keep him fooled. That's how Gwen and Karina managed to steal Siegfried right in front of Delacroix's eyes, without firing a single shot. Now Sebastian had started carefully running his fingers across Siegfried. The safe had a total of 7 dial, and he set one of them in a snap. Meanwhile, Rolf asked Brad, "You did check Gwen's GPS, right?" Brad snapped, "Do I look like an idiot to you?" Mid-convo, he opened the GPS again, and this time, Gwen's location popped up. That's when Karina got shocked seeing Brad's phone location pop up real close. As soon as she stepped out of the van to keep an eye on them, Interpol swarmed in and surrounded her. By that time, Rolf and Brad had already taken off. Just before Interpol could grab her, Karina quickly shot a message to Gwen. Just one word, run. And then she smartly tossed her phone under a moving car, smashing it to pieces. She got caught, but Gwen had already gotten the message. That meant she had to speed up the truck. But the problem was, any turbulence would mess with the safe. Sebastian had cracked 4 out of 7 dials, and he needed full focus. On the other side, Delacroix tried everything, but Karina didn't open her mouth. Then a female agent offered her a deal. Once Karina went to jail, they'd take full care of her little brother and his education. All they needed was one thing, the route Gwen was using to escape with the safe. After thinking hard, Karina slowly nodded and left the rest up to fate, because now only a miracle could save Gwen from Interpol. Meanwhile, Sebastian had reached the last dial. Despite the turbulence and all the pressure, he finally cracked Siegfried too. And the second the safe popped open, he couldn't hold back. He shouted at the top of his lungs, "I'm the great soul!" Meanwhile, Rolf and Brad had gotten real close, but Gwen had no clue the danger was this near. She stopped the truck in a quiet spot and stepped out. Like always, she filled 2 bags with cash, and the moment she stepped outside, Brad was already standing there with a gun pointed at her. He barked, "You're coming with me quietly, or I'll blow this bug's head off right here." Gwen didn't move a muscle. Brad, pissed off, aimed straight at Sebastian and pulled the trigger, but the gun didn't fire. Gwen had pulled the pin from his gun earlier, right after he killed that security guard. She didn't want Brad to take another life. In the very next moment, she cuffed Rolf and Brad to the truck at gunpoint. Then she tossed a bag full of cash in their car and took off with Sebastian. A few minutes later, Interpol showed up. Brad finally landed in Delacroix's hands, and right then and there, Delacroix got his revenge. Then they all went after Gwen. On the other side, Gwen and Sebastian were almost at their hideout without a hitch. That's when, for the first time, Sebastian told Gwen what was in his heart, and she smiled and gave a nod. But they had zero time for moments like that. Gwen and Sebastian were about to escape the country by boat, but just before that, Delacroix showed up and pointed his gun right at them. The very next moment, Gwen turned and pointed her gun right at him. That's when she made a deal with Delacroix. She'd surrender, but only if he let Sebastian go. Delacroix had been chasing Gwen and her crew for years anyway. As for Sebastian, he was never a criminal like them, and Delacroix knew that well. So he agreed to Gwen's terms and let Sebastian walk. But Sebastian wasn't ready to leave Gwen behind like that. He stood his ground, kept refusing over and over. Finally, Gwen screamed at him in anger, forcing him to leave. So, he took the boat and left, while Gwen gave herself up to Delacroix. A while later, once he was far out on the water, Sebastian checked the bag. Inside was a brand new passport for every team member, under new identities. And along with that, there was a flight ticket too. Sometime later in California, we see a woman and a guy built like a tank. They were looking for a safe cracker. So they went to a guy who built safes, and that's where they ran into Sebastian. The second he saw the Götterdämmerung banner in their hands, Sebastian's eyes lit up. They offered him $250,000 to crack the safe. But what they didn't know, Sebastian would have done it for free, because finding the Götterdämmerung had been the purpose of his life for years.